Welcome everyone. My name is G. Truglia. I'm the president of TST.
And I'm Pierre Respaut, the vice president of TST.
And we also we'll throw into the picture here our buddy Bear, and he'll be doing stuff in the background. So you could swing Bear in here.
All right.
Get Bear right in there. You've seen Bear on some of our scan tool shootouts. At any rate, and Doreen behind the camera. So tonight, we're going to have Bear help us out with some stuff. Pierre and I will be mostly on screen. We're going to be working with the Genisys Touch, and here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover some data PIDs. We're going to talk about graphing, a lot of the functions of the tool, generic and global OBD2 stuff, OE specific, some bidirectional tests, some mode 6 stuff, lab scope, voltage, and low and high current probes, and TPMS. So that's what we'll be looking at tonight as we go through. Now, we did take some screenshots like this prior, okay? This is a fuel injector voltage that we'll look at later, and a live and amperage and voltage here. So this is what their scope is capable of. This is our relative compression. I did this relative compression on a 2012 Cadillac CTS 3.6 liter. We see the high peak up there on a 500 amp. And then we see that these humps are even. We spread it out a little bit on a 1,000 amp setup, and we go up to about 650 amps initially for a few milliseconds. And remember, 1,000 milliseconds makes 1 second. The important thing here, all the humps are even. And then we just spread it out a little bit more with our time base. So if you did have a problem, maybe be able to pick it out a little better. So that's some of the stuff we're going to cover. We're going to look at this. Pierre will be the Vanna White here for a little bit. We have the unit right here. This is the Genisys Touch unit that I will be using a stylus on. Bear will be starting the car, so you'll hear some noise in the background in a minute. And we're going to connect to this car through the wireless box. So Pierre or Bear, if you may go over there, probably Bear, and look at this box that is connected. This is the VCI connected to the vehicle and connected to our main unit through Bluetooth. Okay, we are not hardwired, and what we'll do is we're going to start, and you can look at the screen up here. Bear, can you start this car up for us? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on Start New, and you see this comes up when it says Start New. We're going to auto ID it. So everything you see I'm doing here is going to be done up on the screen. So let's do auto ID. Now, since we're doing this live, this is not recorded. Since we're doing this live, well, things could happen like they happen in your shop. Okay. So as it's connecting, it says make sure the engine's on. It is. You can hear it running, the keys on. And it should pop up. I noticed this is what happens, and there it goes. So it's just a little bit where you gotta wait, and maybe the next update will take care of that. We'll select the this is a 2009 Hyundai we're on. And I want you to be aware, these are the controllers on the vehicle. So let's take a look at those controllers. We have maintenance test, and maybe Pierre, you could just click on maintenance and show them what's in the maintenance box.
I hit airbag by accident.
So it's going to just tap on it twice. Now it has to go back.
Want me to auto ID again?
No, just hit it. Okay, now you're in it. So let's hit data stream. And since he hit airbag first, here's what's coming up in airbag. Crash information is not recorded. Hit OK.
That's a good thing.
Okay, so let's hit done. Done gets us out. And let's read DPCs if there's any DPCs. That's the first thing you should always do. And let's wait till it comes up. And there's nothing there. But since we're on the screen, let's do all system DTC. All system DTC. And now it should go all the way through, and it's finding all the different controllers. And you can see it's going to take a little bit.
This is kind of like a quick test or a short test on other makes or other pieces of equipment. So, you know, quick test, short test. It's a vehicle scan.
Right, and by the way, this vehicle scan is super important nowadays. You know, if you use any tool, this is something that everyone wants to look at is, are we checking everything on the vehicle? It's important to do that. By the way, we're in business to make money. You may find a problem somewhere else that maybe the owner of the vehicle is not even aware of.
Or the owner may be complaining about one thing, and you may find some global condition that's creating the problem, and you would go down the wrong path if you didn't look at that.
Yeah.
You know, like I like to say voltage. If 5 controllers are showing voltage codes, stop, look at the voltage codes first, because whatever else you got going downstream may be a result of that.
That is true. So we're about 37% done. It's reading 46 now. It's
Yep.
going through, and any scan tool that you're on that's going through querying computers, there are many that may not even be on the vehicle, okay? There may be some cars that you get a bundle of.
Right.
You know, again, we decided to pick this vehicle today for a reason.
And you know, also, besides how many are on it, some vehicles have a lot more potential modules because they may be a body that's sold all over the world. So it may be scanning for modules that would be in Japan or Europe.
Right.
And you know, it's not going to see that module here, but it has to see if it's there. It has to ping it, wait a certain amount of time, and then move on.
And while we're waiting, Doreen, if you can go over on this screen here, I did this one a little earlier. This is my CPS, where it gives me the VIN, tells me all the monitors that are supported. This is a whole printout that you can give to your customer. Also, it goes down, and we'll look at all the live stuff came up. Doreen, if you just show them the live screen for a second and come back here. So here's the live screen. We'll talk about that and go through it in a second. Here on the Cadillac, it went through all of the information that you could print out for your customer. Going into mode 6 information. Okay, and you may be wondering, it looks like something cut off here. You'll see mode 6 shows up perfect on the scan tool itself, just the way it printed here in a PDF. And we got pages and pages of information on this report, as you can see. Okay. Look at that. Look how much mode 6 information, and again, that's off the 2012 vehicle. So, a real nice bit of information to give your customer, you know, including calibrations and everything else. So that's, you know, it basically tells us here, mode 6, 66 passes, 0 fails, you know, readiness monitors, 8 that are not ready, 8 ready, not supported, not ready 0, not supported 3. So this is a really good report that you can use for your customer. Now, let's look at the live thing here. I'll let Pierre do the point that I'm a little better with the tool scrolling and watch me screw up.
Yeah, and you'll notice right there, ABS ESC shows a right front sensor open or short, so it's got a code for that.
And by the way, he had that. He had a little bit of a wheel speed problem, and
There it is.
that code is still in there. Now going down, look at this. The canned timeout on the ECM. Now, I wouldn't go crazy when you see some of this stuff. I wouldn't go crazy when you see some of that stuff, because if there's not an issue, don't worry about it. Sometimes it's just as it's going through trying to query it.
And you know, depending on how much data you want to, deeply you want to dig, you can look at history. Not every car gives it to you, but you want to know how many times it occurred and at what mileage or how long ago. Because if it happened once and it was 10,000 miles ago, you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. And sometimes things just don't clear out right away. He also has on this car some TPMS problems, as you can see here. And there's no playback file there. Not that I wanted to hit that, but
There you go.
it happens.
Yeah, just like for us when we're in the shops, right? Accidentally, I do it all the time. I hit the button or whatever. Maybe I'm a little too attention deficit disorder and I'm in a rush.
So one of the things here that we show you on the bottom, and we'll run the other full scan, is the bottom, you could pick all the different controllers, okay? And we should really start with, you know, generic OBD2 first and take a look at that. Okay? And we're going to let it go through, see what's what.
And while it's loading, you know, generic OBD2 doesn't lie to you like enhanced stuff does. It's got to be unfiltered data.
Very good. The only thing is on the vehicle, you basically can have one bit of information that is not necessarily real on some scan tools. And that would be the air-fuel ratio, which this car has.
Right.
So here's our readiness status stuff. You can see it's pretty much all there. Let's look at mode 1 data stream. And mode 1 data stream, pulling up. And just like you have to wait in the shop, you have to wait here.
You wait for the little hourglass, you wait for the little...
An important thing here to look at is number one, the mill is off, okay? We can see that we have calculated engine load at about 15.65%.
So when he's reading down these...
Right. And what I'm going to do,
here.
I'm going to graph that. And how you graph this stuff is, let me go over here to the engine temperature, and you're going to see I'm going to pull this box down. When I click on that box and pull it down, I can make it a bar, I could make it a graph, and I can move it to the top if I like. Okay. So pretty nice, pretty easy to graph. We could do tons of recordings. So if we hit recordings, there's nothing in there.
But once he makes a recording, there will be.
Exactly. But you could go back and look at stuff in here. Why would we even try to do a recording?
Well, I can think of two reasons to do a recording. One is a before and after, and the other one is show it to the customer. Which one of those is first or second is up to you, but both of those are very important reasons in my opinion. Oh, actually, there's a third thing that comes to my mind is, what if you want to compare it to some information source? IATN or factory information or you know, whatever information source you have, tech groups. It would be nice to know what it's supposed to look like, and then you can compare what you've just recorded.
And you know, an important thing to look at here is fuel trim. Look at these fuel trim numbers. We got 1.6 on long term, and short term looks like it's at 0. So this car is running
really clean, really on the mark.
really good.
Now coolant, you know, time to climb. I see this all the time in my new life diagging cars 3 days a week. A lot of cars come in with a variety of codes, but the one that's the first one to look at if it's mixture related is a time to climb, a thermostat issue. If it's climbing too slowly, it's going to be running ridge too long, and if it's going to do that, it can have mixture codes.
And what we're looking at now, the mass airflow sensor that I've graphed, I'm going to have, we're at about 2.4 grams, and since this is a 2. What do you got there?
He's looking at the sticker now, but you always got to look for that sticker under the hood, right?
It's a 2 liter.
2 liter.
Which I thought.
2.4.
2.3, 2, whatever. Now, Bear's going to give it a good vroom. And we're going to see that that went up. And you can see the
big spike.
The graph that is right in here, and that comes across as it spikes out. Now the oxygen sensor is the next one underneath for bank 2 oxygen sensor.
Now on this mass air, what if you had a problem with performance and you wanted to know if the engine was breathing? Would it be nice just to go down the road and stomp on it and see if, for example, maybe you have a catalytic converter. You stomp on it, it goes up initially, and then all of a sudden it starts to drop down even though you're floored. you can start looking for a restriction, intake or exhaust, but at least you know to look for a restriction. Handy diagnostic tool.
And look, in this generic information, OTC does this right. You're looking at, it says oxygen sensor 1, sensor 1, wide range sensor engine, and you're reading about 2 volts. 1.9, 2 volts is basically what a Hyundai usually runs at. Give it a little Not that high, just. The lower the number, the richer.
The opposite of an old-fashioned oxy sensor.
So we can see that's working, and we got a lot of PIDs here for generic stuff.
And when it really peaked, that's when he lifted.
And there's all our generic stuff right there. Which is pretty nice.
No, pretty cool stuff, huh?
When we have this timeline thing here, you see this record feature on the bottom. We stop recording, because I was recording before, I can go back anywhere
And get the numbers.
and get the numbers. So watch, point at that catalyst temperature or whatever,
Right there, 900 degrees.
908, 913.
915.
And you can do that on anything. If I pull down, you know, if we sort by, let's sort by graph. Okay. And let's go back. And let's resume play. You'll see the numbers actually changing.
Right.
And by the way, we're not live now, we're playing the recording back. So this is a real nice feature that if you have a problem, you should be looking at. You should be recording.
And of course,
stuff.
being PC based, you can always do a screenshot and print it.
Exactly. There
Anything
is-
you want.
There is all that. So we're going to stop that playback, and we're going to get out of data PIDs here. Let's look at mode 2, freeze frame, which is something you should always check, even if you have no DTCs.
Because sometimes it still has a freeze frame.
Ah, very
Yeah.
good. And it doesn't look like
It has any.
no data, no data.
So he has no freeze frame. Generally, you know, we always used to, when we, early OBD, the first classes Jerry taught, if there was no codes, there was no freeze frame. That's not universally true.
And
Not
it
anymore.
changed. No. I've come across some vehicles where you had a code only in freeze frame, but it wouldn't come up.
Right.
It wouldn't come up.
It was not even, it wasn't even a pending code.
So let's look at the other modes here. We're loaded in mode 3 and on. There's no trouble codes, and that's in generic engine. You're working in any type of inspection program, that's good. Here's mode 6. And it warns you if the monitors are not ready. But let's talk about that. Monitors are a big problem, aren't they? If you can't get a monitor running, if you listened to our round table the other day, you'll notice that Neil, one of our board members, he had a problem with a Toyota. What else is new? What else is new, right? Well, when he called me up, I said, Neil, one of the things you got to do is follow the criteria for that particular monitor. If you follow the criteria for that particular monitor, you may see that monitor run. If that's not going to work, where do we go? We go into mode 6.
Mode 6, and you see what's failing.
And if you
Or
see
what's close to the edge.
close to the edge. So that's good stuff. Let's take a
You
peek
got
there.
to look in factory or whatever information source you have for enabling criteria. You got to know what it is, and you got to know what the test criteria are.
So if you guys have any questions, you could type them in the chat box, and we'll be more than glad to answer them.
And this is obviously, it's a standard thing. You're really waiting for the car to communicate. You're not so much waiting for the scan tool. You're waiting for the car to dig up all that information and spit it back through the
And here we go.
There you go.
Right, here's a whole bunch of mode 6 data.
And this is what Jerry was showing you on the other screen before in a PDF format. See, the whole thing fits on the screen in real time.
And you know, the nice thing here is they decode mode 6, they tell you what it is, what the limits are, and let's see how extensive this list is. And again, I would use this generic form of it to see if a monitor didn't go, or you have some sort of problem, where you're close to failing or failing. So we got a lot of information here. Catalyst monitor, look at the catalyst monitor. The max is 0.450, you got 0.
Right.
Now that's, by the way, on its last test.
Right.
Its last test.
And obviously, every time it runs the monitor, it's going to have a new result there.
Correct.
And if you have a problem, I mean, the way I go after a car, codes first, freeze frame second, mode 6 third.
And look at the misfire data, which is really nice if you're looking for a problem as far as some sort of ignition and or fuel problem.
Right.
It's something we look at. You know, it says misfire, cylinder 3, cylinder 4, well obviously.
Minimum, value, and max.
You know, there's cylinder 2, there's cylinder 1.
They're starting at 0, they're actually probably doing individual misfire counts, so obviously 0 is better.
So there's some data right there. And I guess that's the end of mode 6. Let's look at mode 9. And it should give us the VIN. Now I don't see mode 10 here. Maybe they just haven't put it in. I know a new update is coming out real soon. I believe in the next month or so.
So engine, this is the VIN of the vehicle, transmission number, controller, you know, cal ID on the engine, calibration number on the tranny, and a verification for cal on the engine. Important information if you're looking at updates or trying to figure out if maybe there's some, you know, you find a bulletin on it and you have to compare that to what's in the car.
Now we have a comment, I believe I know the gentleman, our buddy Norm. He said it would be nice if it had a scroll bar. Now that may be something they may want to look at because, you know, just going up and down, this screen doesn't have scroll, but the other ones we were on, like when we were on data stream, if we go back, it may be easier. If you're not good with a stylus,
Right.
you know, maybe that scroll bar would be helpful.
Of course, the other thing is, you know how it is in the shop, you might lose that stylus.
Let's look at that. See? If I hold it on there, and by the way, it's usually pretty good with the finger. Right now I'm using my finger. Not that I'm giving Pierre my finger. I'm using my finger.
Yeah. And actually, I think on a lot of these screens, the finger, your fingertip, your index finger works better sometimes than the pen.
Right.
The exception is gloves.
Yeah.
If you have work gloves on, it may not always work.
Okay, so let's get out of that and let's see what they have for maintenance tests. This is all the controllers that they support for this 2,900. Let's look at maintenance test here. They have TPMS registration, and for TPMS, there's this great tool that we'll be having Bear use in a second. So we'll look at this. But nice thing with Hyundai and OTC here, they're going to give us all the TPMS information and scan data.
And this thing's wirelessly connected to the scan tool.
Which is
So it data links what you're getting off the valve stems, off the wheels, back into the tool. Kind of a cool feature.
And then we have our engine computer.
That's you gotta wait, like everything.
Okay. When you click on any of these things and it comes up, I do want to show, like right down here, your engine where the little thing is.
Right.
If I do this, all the controllers come back up. Okay.
So that's kind of the menu of controllers in the car.
Exactly. So we're going to do engine, and it's going to bring us to a screen. If you're not used to it, it seems like, oh, what am I doing? Well, right here we have maintenance test for engine. There's only the TPM registration, so we'll go back. We have read DTCs that you should always do. And if you remember before, we did all system DTC scan. We didn't do automated system. Automated gives you a little bit more, and it takes a little bit longer, but it's a very, very good idea to run it. So I'm going to click on it and annoy you, and you can see it's going through all this.
While that's doing that, the automated basically goes deeper. And you know, sometimes, like I said before, just on the short test, so to speak, you want to go deeper, especially if you have something that's really confusing you. The car comes in and it has multiple codes or a few codes in multiple computers, and the customer doesn't know when it all started. He saw a light come on now and a light come on, you know, a different time. You really would like to get the big picture. And this really fills in a lot of the blanks on the big picture.
Yeah, it's helpful, and again, as I said before, sell the customer something.
Yeah, and I like to be upfront with customers. I like to document everything, because you don't want them to come back later and think that you didn't do your homework. And if they then say, well, I'm not interested in that, I'm only interested in this, it's a good time to explain to them that the car's interrelated, that everything's on a network.
Exactly.
And that way, at least, if things kind of go bad and you don't get all the answers because he didn't authorize that work, it's on him, not on you.
So we're about halfway, a little
done.
more than halfway through. And again, we'll see that report. When the report comes up, we're on a wireless network here in the training center, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to email that report right to my droid. So it's pretty neat.
So you can technically email the report to your customer in real time.
Exactly.
And then call them up and talk to them about it. Right while you're there, on the car.
I tell you,
Pretty
it's
cool.
amazing. You know, they've done a very nice job. They got some other things coming out, like I said, shortly. I think it looks pretty good. One of the things compared to last time, we did drivability meets transability with
Right.
Wayne Colonna.
Right.
And we had an issue setting the screen up.
Right.
Now with this update, which was one update newer than the last one from about a month ago, it automatically clicked right on.
Communication issues appear to be between the PC and the scan tool.
Yeah,
Appear to be fixed.
and it went right on
Right.
like this, 1, 2, 3, and that's a big plus for people that are not computer literate. I mean, you know, one of the things we hate being technicians and stuff is messing around with computer stuff when we have to fix the car.
We hate to have to diagnose the tool when we're trying to diagnose the car. Right?
Exactly.
Pain in the neck.
So we're up. Here we go.
There we go.
So here's our whole list. 107 data items. There's all of this stuff here, everything that passed, but if we do a summary or detail, I'm going to hit detail, and you see where it says print to email? I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit print. And since we're on a wireless network,
He's going to send it to his phone and then show you on the phone that it's there. You could also print it to a flash drive or whatever. You could print it to the computer.
yes, you can print it to the computer, you can save the file, you can play it back. I don't know what happened here, why it didn't go.
There you go.
I think it's...
That's a Windows issue.
I think it's thinking.
Yeah, it's having a Microsoft moment.
You know, I did many of these today, like the one I showed you up on the screen behind us. So if, just to give you an idea here,
I'll get out of the way.
this was one I emailed myself today while that's working. So you get it in the email, you can see it, you came from the company, and as soon as this thing does its thing, we will take a peek at it.
There it is.
Okay. So it came back, but here we go. Notice it's going to my email address. Okay. It's telling me the year of the car. You can even put notes on the bottom of it. If I want to put a note in here, I put hi all.
Obviously, if you were sending this to a customer, you might say, this is what I found on your car, and this is what I think, or we'll talk about it, whatever, you know.
And I'm going to hit send.
You could CC it to yourself, and then you have a record that you sent it, that they got it.
Now it's going to take a couple of seconds. It's going to say that it sent it or whatever, I don't know why. It worked a lot faster today. Usually works pretty good.
That's probably the network there, you know, and you look at it, everybody's on their networks in the evenings, and it probably slows down the servers. Not on our end, but you know.
There you go. Print out, successfully sent. This afternoon, it was going, boom, like that. So, there's okay. I'm going to check my email on my Droid here in a second. And in the meantime, we will get out of this part.
So while we're waiting for that, maybe type in what you think so far. What do you like, what do you not like about what you see?
Something you may want to see that we haven't done.
All right, yeah, that would work too.
Let's look at the data stream.
Another area we use on a daily basis, right, and on any scan tool. I do. Look at live data.
And we'll look at that live data right up.
Of course, sometimes when you see a number you don't like, you have to take out whatever other tool is needed, temperature, you know, some kind of a thermocouple or a FLIR or whatever, voltage for sensors that are voltage, you have to compare it to the real world.
And we have, look at the PIDs here. Canister purge, duty cycle, the variable valve timing.
Did you notice he scrolled up and showed no data for about, what, a quarter of a second? And then it updated. It was pretty quick.
Yeah, it really, really does a pretty good job. Look, you scroll up again.
No data for a bit of a second, and then boom, on.
Comes right in. And don't forget, we have our record bar on the bottom that we can look at. We can graph anything we want. It's pretty simple. The graph will come up there and update. Here's all the misfire counters we've seen before. And so far that email, oh, here's the Hyundai email, came in. Hyundai email came into my Droid. You can see that?
Yep.
I can click on it. I got to get the attachment, load details. So this is pretty cool when you can send this to a customer or whatever. I guess all networks are slow.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, this is the time of evening when a lot of people are on their internet and they're bogging down the servers.
I'm on 4G, I should be flying. Well, it'll pop up any second. We'll head back to that. And is there a question? Okay, let's see what we have, Pierre.
Yeah.
Well, a bunch of questions, so give me a second here.
I guess G will read them and one of us will answer them.
Can we select which PIDs we wish to monitor for a specific problem? Yes, you could click them, you could graph them, put them to the top.
Right.
So that'll be something we'll do there. I can never get my OTC scope or Genisys to print or save anything. Can you print something on paper just to prove me wrong? Well,
I don't think we have a printer attached to this, do we tonight?
I don't. But I could do that on my phone. It should be coming up. The Genisys the regular Genisys is a little different.
Basically, if you output this to a PC like we have here, you can do a screen capture and print on anything on a PC. You know, you can do a print screen, or if you, depending on your operating system version, you may have to buy a hard copy or one of those utilities.
Well, here it is. I just did it on my phone. And let me blow it up Droid-wise and do this. So here it is. Here's this car we're working on. 2008 Hyundai. I thought it was a 2009, but it says 800 for some reason. But. So it does it, and this is right in my email. Look, that's that whole report. And that's taking time to fill in the blanks.
It sounds like this is something on the servers on the internet, you know, on the wireless. They're a little slow. There it is.
But there it is. So it does it, and it does it quite well. And I'll show you that it's my email. right there, 2008 Hyundai. I click on it. I click on attachments. There's the attachment, right?
Yep.
Hit preview. You have the PDF reader. Of course, if you have an Apple thing, that's a whole other ballgame. We won't go there. Okay. So there's the thing that really works. Pretty neat. I mean, to me, that's impressive that, you know, even doing some work with OTC, I was sending them some information, and I liked it because I could instantly send it. Rather than going, oh, I gotta print to something else.
Right. Scan it, put it in an email attachment and all that.
And if we click on something, let's say I want these cylinder misfires, right? And I want to sort by selection.
Yeah, what they were calling about select. If you select individual PIDs, you can just select certain ones to show.
Right, you see what I just
And then you
did?
can sort and change
See the misfires?
Right,
Now
now
watch this. I'm gonna move this down here. You're just gonna pick anything. Canister purge, crankshaft position, oil temperature. I'm gonna do sort by selection. See the upper
Yep.
right?
right there.
There we go. So you can do that. Was one of the questions. Let me read a couple of more of them.
They did make it a lot easier than you know, old school scan tools that required you to go through 100 tedious steps to get the same information.
Now, one guy here says every couple of years he updates his tools. OTC does trade-ins. They do a good job. He has an Evo. Now, you can look at our P0171. It was the Mac version of the Evo. I have the regular Genisys Evo, and I got to tell you, it's quick, it's fast. We use it all the time around here. It's a very good tool and very reasonably priced. So again, if you guys want to see something different than what we're doing here, we'll be more than glad to show you that. When it comes to the scope, we're going to try relative compression on this car. We showed you, we did there before. We're going to show you fuel injection, ignition. We'll show you some stuff there, but let's go through the rest of the controllers. So there's data stream. Let's look at diagnostic information. Now, here's really a cool setup. Number one, tune-up specs. I'm going to go the opposite way. It tells me the injector, what temperature, and what the ohms are. Not that I'm an ohm guy, but that gives you a good ballpark. Timing, you know, the stuff that no one ever looks at. And by the way, it is scan data that you need to look at. Spark plug. There's our spark plug gap. Okay.
Another thing a lot of people don't look at anymore.
Yeah. And by the way, when you see the screen go blank or whatever, the scan tool's not doing that. I'm not sure if it's the refresh rate of the monitor. So it really has nothing to do with it. It seems pretty live. I touch something, it kind of goes right away. Idle speed, fuel pressure, and look at that. They give it to you in kilopascals, PSI, and kilograms. Fire and water, like you didn't know it was 1342.
On a 4-banger, it's always 1342.
Let's look at the video library. Now, one of the things that we do here at TST, we're going to be adding a lot of little clips. Currently, these are the only clips that they have on it. And it may be a little difficult for you to hear, but I'm going to open this up. And let me make sure my volume button is up here. And this thing should be speaking to us, but there is a clip that they have in the background. Of course, Murphy's Law, like I said, it's live, and you know, it did work and play. There you go.
There it is.
A little delay. So you could kind of hear them if I just kind of take this little file back. Let's say play again. So you can see they're racing it up.
That's a snap throttle.
That's a snap throttle. So these are little things that you could see in here. Available other resources that they'll let you go to. We'll talk about that later. Code Assist library. Really nice.
Handy feature.
Handy feature. because watch some of the stuff that they're going to give you here, and their next update, they're going to even give you more and more to populate and give you more information. So of course, as it's looking at the library, we have to wait.
There you go. Just like in real life.
Okay, so let's take a P0172 Rich. It basically tells you frequently fixed reports, clean mass air, replace mass air, oxygen test. Now, I noticed they didn't put in code criteria yet. You know, this is something they probably have to bring over. I know I get a lot of this in their Pathfinder information that's already on the Evo. I guess it just hasn't been transferred over here because this is a different platform. Same with description. So this is stuff that they'll be working on the next update. Symptom assist. Now this is helpful because sometimes when you have a brain fart, you get old, like Pierre. We're not going to blame me or Pierre. It's all Pierre's problem.
I'm getting younger myself.
And let's pick one because it's AC time. Let's put AC performance. You know, performance AC, things that are problem, ready, those thermostats. So they got some stuff here. It needs to be beefed up a little more, but it gives you some information. It doesn't look as comprehensive as it does in Evo just yet. Direct hit, Identifix, 6,029 things. Now I noticed, oh, now it's going in. It's going to make me a lot.
Before you had trouble?
I had trouble. I had to go the other way. Now this is my account that it goes into. So if you have a Identifix account, you can put it right in there, and I can look at anything. If I want to look at repair tracks, or let me type something in here. Let me go back, and let me put in
while
I gotta get the keyboard there.
There you go. While he's getting that, so you have to have an Identifix account for that to go directly in like
Yeah,
that.
they may give you, you know what, I'm not sure if they give you a trial.
Right.
I believe so.
But long term, you'd want your own account.
So
It's
here's
such a handy feature. I mean, you know,
and Identifix is phenomenal. Don't forget to look at our Identifix video up on our YouTube channel. And look at this. Here's all the stuff that they have. Oop. Here's the bar, Norman, that you were talking about. This would be great if they had it throughout the tool. So that's something that they should look at. And of course, we can go in new fuel ratio sensor. You know, and it tells you how to check it. You know, really nice stuff here. Guy Dibble, good guy at Identifix, by the way, I know him. And don't forget, they have OE information as well, which is really nice. So this is the Identifix part. Let's get out of here. We looked at the other stuff there. So that was the diagnostic information. Let's look at special tests. And remember, we're only in engine right now. Let's look at fuel injector test. Let's see if it does anything. Number one injector. I'm going to hit it. It's not my car, it's my son's car, so who cares?
yeah, he will have to fix it tomorrow though if he breaks it.
Okay, so right now, I'm going to command.
There you
can
go.
hear the engine.
You can hear the engine. So bidirectional control's obviously working very well.
And we've got to get
It's
out of
running
that.
pretty lousy. And it's 3 cylinders that are left. He didn't start that injector back up.
Turn off ignition.
Aha,
It helps to read.
there you go.
Okay. Start it up. So we know it really works, and again, it does help to read. Let's look at fuel test, fuel pump relay, evap, 3 tests, canister purge, canister shutoff valve, and canister shutoff valve clock.
Clock. They're timing it. They're setting out a time, you know, whatever. 40%, 30%, whatever it is.
Preconditions not met. Oh, there it goes. Test is already in progress. We hit abort.
So obviously when you're doing this, you can't always see a valve like that. What you have to do is go to the valve and put a scope or a meter on it and see if it's really activating. Put a vacuum gauge on it if you have it, you know, detached from the car. See if it's really opening and closing, that kind of stuff.
Well, here's something with an idle actuator.
No, that you don't need to put it. You'll hear the engine speed up or slow down. Preconditions not met. Well, if they ask what are the preconditions?
Yes, we'll just show you what they are. They didn't show you,
I
but
didn't see it.
it would be nice to show.
Nice to know what the preconditions are.
Oh, let's see.
So there's something that could.
Ignition test. Ignition coils, let's do 2 and 3. Oh, you know what? It said something there. You gotta read sometimes.
They probably will only allow you to test coils with key on, engine off, because they don't want you toasting the catalytic converter with all that fuel you're now pumping downstream. So my guess is Jerry blasted through that menu, but the
I
fact
read, it says ignition on,
engine off. There you
So
go.
that's one way to see if they're actually firing the coils and
Right.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna abort that.
And you could put an amp probe on the wire to the coil, and you'd see what the amp draw is on that coil. You know, you could on ones where you know, if you have a KV tester, you could do KV. It depends on the system, obviously, but
Let's look
You can
real
do that.
quick at their browser. And since this is a window-based thing, and look at this, this is nothing we put up. They have
that's us.
text for tech, IATN, and TST. I don't know what text for tech is.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay, it's an OTC thing. IATN. I believe I did set this up already for members only. So here's all the different forums on IATN.
And again, of course, you have to be an IATN member to get in there. You have to have
And
a
it tells you to
password.
log out, you know, again, that's my
Standard.
particular account. And, it should have hit the back button, and then if you go to TST,
You have us.
and one of the things, if you look at, if you do what's coming up in seminars and so on, but we'll do webcasts, TST on YouTube, so if you scroll down, we have probably 100 and something videos. Click here, samples on YouTube.
Right there, and you can see them all. And actually, that's on the, you don't have to be a member of TST to get into that part. That's on the public side of the site.
Exactly.
But if you're a member of TST, to give us a plug,
And there's
you
our,
get into the
there's our big
TST.
event.
You get into the TST part of the site, all the special, the extra stuff.
Have not seen are pretty amazing when you go on the website and he's into
So there's-
Twitter and Facebook and everything else.
There's from our big event. Here's Pierre and I years back doing the Pegasus.
Fewer gray hairs.
And of course, we got a lot more, tons of videos there.
Yeah.
But we're gonna click out of that, you don't wanna hear me, just to show you what's going on. Let's pick a different controller. Let's go to the transmission controller and see if you had a problem on this vehicle, as we did with drivability and transability. You gotta see if you got any problems going on there, right?
Absolutely.
So let's see how good they are on transmission.
Now again, some of this is going to be vehicle specific, so some manufacturers, some vehicle manufacturers are going to have better access than others.
There's no trouble codes. Let's see what data stream. We got some fluid temperature.
Yeah, clutch slip. You got a few things here. You got good data.
Yeah, get your Prindle.
Yeah, some solenoids, no DTCs.
Yeah, they got some nice data.
Yep, good stuff.
Let's look at special tests. The diagnostic information, by the way, seems to be the same through. So if you looked at it in one place, you'll see it in another. Now, if you look at solenoid tests on and off, solenoids for the tranny, and pressure control valve, pressure control solenoid A, B, C, and torque converter.
Again, you have to read that. They may not allow you to actually do that with the car running, some of those tests, because they don't want you smoking clutches or whatever. Or other ones you may have to do on the road. You know, a torque converter lockup, you may want to actually see that thing locking up down the road, activate it, unlock it, see what it does, stuff like that. But again, it's only going to happen if the manufacturer allows it to happen.
And by the way, guys, you could print this all out. Nowadays, you know, you guys are on a webcast, so obviously you have internet. And you should have internet in your shop. And reason being, here with all the wireless internet, we could basically give anything to a customer. Yes, I could print out the hard copy.
Right.
Not a big deal. I could print that out and come out with a piece of paper. But I think the powerful thing is saving that file on your computer, sending it to the customer. The people are just to become amazed that you could actually do all this stuff. It really is.
And more than not just that, you know, seeing is believing. If you say something's bad, it's one thing. If you show them the printout out of the diagnostic tool, and they seem to trust diagnostic tools more than they trust us a lot of times, then
No, speak for yourself.
seeing is believing. Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's
Maybe
right.
I don't have a trustable face, but the bottom
Someone
line
said
is,
you look young.
I
I think they're on drugs, but that's a whole other
Or
story.
maybe they're older.
Let's look at, you know, one of the problems, I'm sure you would agree with there, one of the problems that you see in the shop is ABS stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not sure what they have here on ABS, but let's find out. And I guess don't overclick. I have a tendency, I like everything instant. You see that little doohickey going around on the screen?
It's doing it.
It's doing its thing.
But you
So
gotta wait.
just give it a second. It has to go into that module or controller.
Right.
And here we are.
Has to gain access.
We always read DTCs first. Hopefully, I think he does have one, right? Didn't we see one before?
There
We have the wheel
were
speed
a
sensor.
couple of ABS
Yeah,
codes.
there's current code.
There you go.
Got it. Now, it says here, you know, I don't know why that came up. Not if they had any code setting criteria or description. They don't have that yet. But I'm sure they're going to be putting that in there like the rest of their tools. Let's look at data stream. I like to see wheel speed sensor. I want to see solenoids, right?
Now, in the case of wheel speed sensors, obviously you'd want to drive it. We can't do that tonight. We're all hooked up in the shop. But I just did one of these yesterday. You know, car came in with a code, right rear wheel speed sensor. I put the scan tool on it and I go just down the parking lot, and the left front wheel speed sensor is reporting 0. And at 19 kilometers per hour, it disconnected itself, some kind of an overload. And I turned off I went out of it on the menu and I went back in. You could do this with this. And I came up sitting in the parking lot, stopped with 0 for wheel speeds, 0 on the left front, 79 on the right front, 4,000 and something on the left rear, and I forgot the number on the right rear. That's a computer. Oh, first, always check voltages and grounds. Powers and grounds were good, computer.
Yeah.
So very quick. And of course now you could capture that.
And let's explain to everyone, when we look at wheel speed sensors like we have up here, right rear, front rear, you know, when you're going to grab, let's say we're going to grab all 4 of them, right? And I'm going to select them. One of the things that you should be aware of, sometimes you got to do 7 to 9 miles an hour before the computer ever picks it up.
All right.
If you suspect you're having a problem, it's a good idea either to put your digital volt ohm meter, if you don't own a lab scope, I would much prefer you use a lab scope, but use your digital volt ohm meter on AC voltage frequency, hertz. That's important rather than just AC voltage. The frequency of each wheel, and of course you got to be on a level road, and you got to check it at the same speed.
Right.
So that's another way to check it. Here we can see the information that we have.
And you'd have to drive the car for that.
Voltage supply, a valve relay, motor on or off, that's good. All the warning lights. I've got a decent amount of data. And again, you got your recording, you can always clear data and all that
And
stuff.
print it and give it to the customer. Now, by the way, what I did on that car to confirm it was a computer, I did put a 4-trace scope on all 4 wheels, and all 4 wheel speed signals were correct. They were identical, they were perfect.
So the
It was not
information was
sensors.
going in.
Absolutely, it was not a sensor issue. This was a computer.
Now, here it says for the bi-directional, they really don't have anything in there yet. Just so you know. Yeah. So let's go to the next controller now. There's ABS. Let's look at TPMS.
Which we had a problem with, right? There was some problem in TPMS.
There goes a little scroll thing, and that'll bring us up to this. Let's look at DTCs first,
Because we always do that.
and then when I get this on, we're going to give this to Bear after I set it up. This is a pretty new thing. We do have a C1312, 1313, 14, and an unmonitored tire installed. There's no information again on it, the code set criteria. Not sure. I know Craig jerks around with it a lot, making stuff off on his car. Excuse me, let's go to data stream. Data stream, I looked at this quickly today when I connected up to this car. And it had a decent amount of data stream. It says sensor 1 temperature, you know, sensor 2 temperature, 3, 4, pressure. You can see the pressure in his tires. One's at 33.2, another one's at 32, 32.4. You got some nice information because number 1, OTC is requesting that information. Number 2, the manufacturer is putting it out. Okay. Now let's stop for a second and focus in on this. Okay. This is a handheld tool that they have that goes along with it. And when I put it on, you see a little screen that says OTC. It says main menu, standalone, select battery, Bluetooth. If I put Bluetooth, then it goes to the unit. Okay. But we're going to do stand alone. And with stand alone, tells Bluetooth disabled, select vehicle. I'm going to go down the list. This does right up to 2013.
While he's doing that, it's basically going to be like any TPMS tool at this point. It's going to be in your hand and you
Yep.
can use it without the stand tool.
Hyundai, it's not an Accent, it's an Elantra. And it's 2007 to 2010. They have more read sensor. Pierre, can you put that in your sensor? And by the way, notice our wheel speed information came up already. That's
Right.
because they're pretty nice.
It was already
Thank you, Bear.
one beep.
And there you go, 1 beep, and it basically told us the ID.
And pressure, 32.5.
Yeah, PSI and ID. And, whoa.
And Jerry almost drop tested it there.
Okay.
He wanted to see how tough it was.
So you can, you can
Glad
go
it
back
wasn't
and
me.
do it. The nice thing here as well, it goes into a cradle, and they have these things, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, you can look at our other webcast we did on DPMS. Schrader makes something they call Easy Sensor, and this Easy Sensor setup works right with this, where you can change the metal stem into the rubber stem. It's a whole kit, which is
So
pretty
you won't
nice.
have all those wonderful corrosion issues that we've had for years with TPMS.
This unit goes in here, you read it, you set it all up, and you're ready to rock and roll. That's pretty neat. So we figured we'd show you that as well, but look what we have right here. We have this information.
And it's giving you battery voltage on the sensors, giving you, pressure, temperature, all the data you really want.
That's pretty
Quickly.
extensive. Look at that. On TPMS, senses learned, not learned.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
And it tells you in English where it is. That one you just, right rear, One, because a lot of times, you get sensor 1.
Where is it?
Okay, which one is it?
Who is it?
Yeah, which one?
Who's there?
Where am I? Right.
Let's see if we have any questions here. Okay, just a bunch of guys chatting with each other, and that's fine, guys. We highly recommend you can yak to each other there. Let's get out of here, and let's look at our next controller, and that would be airbag. Because what we want to do here, you know we do stand tool shootouts, but what we want to do here is show you the Genisys Touch. Show you what it could do. There's a lot of Hyundais on the road. It's a big selling car. Okay, it worked real good on the 2012 Cadillac. It went right in there immediately. So let's see what we got here. Let's read DTCs. There's probably going to be none, but it's always the first place to go.
We can always create one though.
Hey, I got to live with the kid.
Oh, that's the problem.
He never lives in his own place, but I mean, I see him every day.
Right.
You don't want to blow anything up. You're already cut full of wires on his car. But who's telling him? Okay, crash information is not recorded.
That's a good sign.
That is good. Yeah, so
It would have been news to Jerry if there had been some.
that would not be good. Okay, so there's no special test there. We can get out of that and go into weight class module they're showing. Now, you know, you guys probably don't do a lot of airbag stuff, but body shops do. And
Yeah.
then you have a body shop near you.
And maybe
Okay.
they send you work,
Yeah,
you know?
that could be helpful.
Body shop work can be a steady stream. Can be good stuff.
Okay, it looks like it doesn't communicate with that. Just so you
But may
know.
not have that much.
Could not have it. That's
May
fine.
not be in the car.
Let's look at air conditioning. One that always concerns us, especially this time of year.
And the customer really wants that to work.
And you could have a lockout. It's not just refrigerant anymore. You could have some sort of computer lockout. It could be a DTC.
Right.
So that'll be the first thing we check when it communicates. So if you guys have any questions, let us know. Any comments? Hopefully our sound is good.
Now with air conditioning, actually with any of these modules, you really have to go to the basics if you have any kind of a question. I mean, you start here, you get your data, but you know, with AC, put gauges on it.
Now
We were talking about that in two of our last round table and a webcast.
Yeah, it said communication error, but now it let me in. It went to the screen. Sometimes it's just a catch-up on how they communicate with a certain thing, but that looks like...
Oh, wait a minute. Is the AC turned? Is the heating system turned on or off? That's the problem. You have to be careful. If your heater is turned off, it may not communicate because you turned the switch off. Was it off? It was off. See, see.
Just hey.
Sometimes basic.
And maybe not.
And maybe not, but I bet you that's, you know, that's like a classic thing. It's bitten me in the past, where you go to communicate with something and it's not working. Well, gotta be on.
We hear the
There,
AC going.
you hear it working now. Now try it.
I think Pierre just wants to cool himself.
He wants to get cold, right? Yeah.
Stay there. We're gonna probably shut it off. Yeah. Doesn't work.
Doesn't like it. Oh well, there was that theory. But it does work sometimes that you have to turn a system on, a radio, maybe on a bus, and
let's look-
communicate when it's on.
Yeah. Let's look at the body module, then the power steering, and then we'll answer some of your questions and look at the scope. So let's look here. Read DTCs. No DTCs. This has electronic type steering, so we should have some PIDs on electric steering.
Right.
Current, stuff like that.
Angle, voltage.
Yeah, we'll have Bear turn the wheel all the way right or left on the telly. And
They
that's
probably have a
true.
rate of turn or something like that.
Okay, so it says speed. Wiper intermittent volume.
What do wipers have to do with,
Oh, we're in the body. We're in body.
oh, because we were not, right. Thought we were in the steering.
I think I misspoke.
There you
It
go.
says body right on it.
Right, yeah, there you go.
So,
A lot of good stuff. A lot of body information here.
Let's see if we have any bi-directional control. Maybe the horn will blow or something. You ever get excited?
Nah, not really. Bear will wake up, however.
No, nothing in there, no bi-directional in there, just so, you know, and again, they got a new version coming out. And some cars will be better than other vehicles. In other words, you know, I was pretty much amazed what it did on a domestic car, but I figured to be fair, let's put it on a car that there's a lot out there. There's a lot of Hyundais. My two sons both own Hyundais. So I said, hey, let's use it. And let's take a look here to see electric steering. Let's read DTCs. Oh, got a couple of current ones there, but this looks like it's a can timeout and idle speed in chassis for whatever reason. Let's look at data stream. Ah, got some nice data stream. Steering wheel torque, motor current draw. Ah, let's see how this works. I'm going to move that up. Pierre, can you turn this thing all the way to the right, to the lock? Excuse yourself for all that noise. You're all the way, right?
Actually, what's happening is the tire is ripping all the paint off of Jerry's floor.
70-something amps was our highest. Go the other way. Put it right to the lock. And went up to 70, then went down. Okay, put it right back to the middle. And at least we have some good information there on this.
Now, I don't really know what those numbers are supposed to be, but I'm sure if you were doing this a lot, you'd know exactly what good and bad are.
Usually you see, I've done a lot on different electric Honda stuff and some Toyota. You'll see them go up to the 70s. If you have low air pressure,
It goes up a lot.
it goes up a lot. If you have anything binding up mechanically,
Right, yeah.
if you have very low current draw, you may have a voltage drop.
Yeah,
So
right.
that could be a problem. Okay, so now we did all that. I think we went through every controller. Yep, we did all the controllers. Let's take a peek at their scope. And we're going to look at some questions first before doing that. Okay.
And then at some point we'll put on we have an amp clamp on the car and a voltage, we're on the trigger side of the injector. We already pre-did that so you wouldn't have to watch us fumble. But the amp clamp is turned off because it times out on us. So at some point we'll turn that on, switch over to the scope, and I can hit scope here, right, Jerry?
Yep, you can go into it.
And there we
Yeah,
are,
auto-
that's live right now.
Yeah, there's a thing, Auto ID.
Wait a minute, let me make sure this amp clamp is on here.
Yeah, the amp clamp went to sleep. Auto ID is when you actually do go on a car. I think you
Okay.
could graph, how many PIDs can you graph on the screen? I think it was 6 of them. We can go back to that for a second.
Hold on.
So let's just go back to scan tool for 1 second. Hit close. Done. Data screen. And graph. You got a graph. Put them down.
So
Little arrow. Hit graph. And see how many you can get. I think 6 will fit.
actually, you might be
Do
able
the
to
2
get-
bottom ones.
Yeah, he's right. Well, the 6 is a little tight.
It's a little tight. You get about 6 of them. They maybe can shrink that up on
Yeah,
their
yeah.
next.
Actually, you can kind of scroll it a little. So.
Yeah, and by the way, the screen going, we're not sure if it's the monitor to transfer this information into the monitor. It's not the tool doing that. The tool has been staying on.
The tool never blinks. It's
Yeah.
Our display is blinking. Okay?
Let's get to our scope. The scope we're using, first of all, Doreen, if you can get in on this. This is a 2-channel, and it's a very good sample rate scope. Okay. It plugs in, as you can see, with a USB to the Genisys Touch. We have their amp clamp, which I'll show you later. And you have a couple of things here when you go into scope. You got ignition, we'll play with that, lab scope, DMM, system test, and system test here. I'm not sure what it does. Oh, so you can kind of look at different
You'd need to have a pressure transducer.
pressure
on.
transducers.
Yeah. You'd have to have a pressure transducer attached to it, and basically that would output a voltage to the scope.
So let's go back to scope here. Preset meters. So if you wanted an injector, if you click that, here's our injector. And by the way, we are on a particular channel here. Don't know
Why it's not happening?
going in. Enable.
So, just like we said before, live things happen.
Well, we're going to go into lab scope.
We know we were set up for that. There you go.
Now, in lab scope, we got two things going on. There's that refresh. In the background, the yellow is the injector
Voltage.
and notice the peak is off. Show them where the peak is.
You can hear it's up the top.
I'm going to change the range on channel 1. We hit range, notice it's at 50 volts. I'm going to click 100.
And now the whole thing will be there, because what's a normal peak on an injector?
But notice-
60 to 80, something like
Notice
that?
when we do that, the stability of the current clamp in the background, it doesn't like it. Now, I could play with the trigger, and it's on manual trigger, I can put it on automatic trigger.
And it still does it.
That still does it. If I go back to trigger again, I have some control. There's the slope where I'm locking it
Yeah,
in.
see, I would go
I'm
up a
going to
little
try
bit.
to, I'm going to try to move this over with trigger position.
There you go.
And notice,
Yeah, move it up there. I think it'll stabilize. Once
There
you're
you
above the
go.
voltage line, there you go.
so right there, and you may be asking, well, how come the current looks like that? This amp clamp, I think the resolution needs a little work. It's a very nice clamp. It shows you, and I'll show you it close up. It actually shows you the current on the meter itself.
It has a digital display on it, so you don't need to actually hook it up to the scan tool to use for, a fuel pump drawer or whatever. But if you want to see a picture, you got to put it in
And
scope.
by the way, here's our current here. Come on.
Right here, current draw.
Don't worry about the blip on the side, that's just noise.
Right, this is noise.
So let me see what I can do here with the range on channel 2. The range on channel 2, how about if I made it 5 amp, maybe clear it up a little bit. Now, see, the range needs to be a little bit.
As with all tools, though, you'll learn what's normal and what's not. And at least you can see the current. Obviously, if you have something that's going like straight up, you got a short. If it's too low, it's not drawing enough, you better start looking for a voltage drop or a component problem.
And we're on our low current probe on that. Let me try something here. What I like doing on most scopes is I go to test lead on it, and notice we got rid of a lot of the fuzziness. Let's change our range on channel 2 and bring it down to maybe 500 millivolts and see if it makes the hump rate. And it does. Let's bring it down a little bit more.
But basically what he's doing is he's giving you less voltage range on the scale, or less amperage range on the
And when I
scale.
went down to 100 millivolts equals an amp,
You got the big,
it's pretty much the same. I'll go to 200 and see what it looks like. But you could do it either way. And I would suggest to them it needs to be filtered a little bit
Kind
better.
of noisy.
It's a little noisy. But it seems to be a very nice fast scope. So there is the fuel, the current clamp. It does come with 2 channels.
Now it's gone flatline because Jerry just took it off the car, obviously.
And here's the amp clamp. It's really nice. It has a meter. One bad thing, or not a bad thing, is the batteries go dead. You must remember this thing does shut off by itself, even if you don't shut it off. We were going crazy when I hooked it up. Then you go look at it, it was off.
Right.
So you can turn it off or it goes automatically off. Pretty nice. We're going to take this off, and we're going to try the ignition now. And we're going to hit channel 2 as an evil. We're going to hit probe for channel 2. Oop.
Bear could plug that in, right?
Yeah, plug that lead in there. They're helping us in the background. Big help when you have extra hands. I'm going to select KV probe. And I guess it's doing its thing here.
It's got to think.
And the injector was on, the yellow one's on channel 1, right? Yeah, that's on channel 2. So on channel 1, I have to go back,
Go 100 volts, right? Or 50. You can do 50.
I selected the wrong thing. Testing channel 1. Well, it's always good. There's our fuel injector back.
Yeah,
there's our ignition.
Right. Look at
And
that.
that looks pretty damn good. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to play with trigger. I'm going to move trigger position.
So you can get a little more of the ignition. Obviously, this stuff you have to play with when you're trying to analyze what's going on. So he's got on yellow, he's got the injector, and it's clipped. Computer's clipping this at, looks like about 50 volts. And then the ignition, and we're just on the coil wire, so obviously if he was to compress this, he would see all the, you were on the coil wire, not one of the spark plug wires, right?
I'm on a coil wire. A spark plug wire. One of their double coils come out.
Oh, I see. Oh, it's a waste spark system.
Right.
Oh, because if you were on a regular distributor system, obviously if you compress this, you'd get all the cylinders on it if you were on the coil lead.
And notice what I just did. I just brought the ignition down a little bit.
But you're now not lined up with your trigger, that's why it froze. So again,
Watch, I'm going to move the trigger.
yeah. So this is the kind of, actually that's a pretty good snapshot right there. But it's not moving because the trigger's, there you go. Up a little more. There you go, look at that.
And if I change time, I can maybe bring this in a little more. We're at 10 milliseconds. 5 makes it out more. Remember the loaded number stretches it out.
The bigger the picture and better detail.
20 milliseconds pulls us in, and there you go.
Right, there's the whole thing.
That's pretty nice. Let me see if I can move that ignition just up a little bit.
So that's actually a pretty clear picture there. I like that. It's a nice sharp image.
It is. It's pretty nice. And one of the things you got to do when I hold the scope to move something, you got to let it sit there for just a little bit.
Again, because it's a PC thing. It's got to know that that's what you're really commanding.
But it does some nice stuff. Not sure why we said Murphy's Law.
Yep, there you go.
So you see that it did that pretty good. What we're going to do next is shut this off for a second.
You wanted to do a cranking compression test, right?
So one of the things we want to do is...
So what Jerry's going to do is, or Bear, is going to pull a fuel pump fuse out. We're going to put an amp clamp on a battery cable. Since it's amperage,
high current probe,
it's a high,
you have to flip it.
Right, a high amp clamp. He's going to, there you go. A high amp clamp because you're, starter current.
Nice banana setup.
Yep. And then he's going to put it on a battery cable. Doesn't matter which battery cable it is, it's amperage. It's just that if you're backwards, it's going to go down instead of up.
And I'm sure there's no presets in here, but I'm sure they're going to start doing this down the road. We're going to select lab scope, because they could really make a lot of presets for you to save. I'm not sure what their plans are, but I bet they will do something there. We're gonna
That'll be a
disable-
handy feature, won't it?
Channel 2 is disabled now, only channel 1. We're gonna select probe. The probe, come on, probe. The probe we're gonna use is high current probe. That high current probe, by the way, is 1 millivolt equals 1 amp is usually, and I just, excuse me, you may have to switch it when we put it back in. Yeah, 1 MV, so that's the right selection.
You always with an amp clamp have to make sure that your scale on the clamp is the same as your scale on the scope or your meter, or you're going to be some decimal point number off.
Okay.
And it's basic stuff, right? But it snares us all the time.
We want to change the range up to 500 amps, probably be good. We want to move this down a little bit here. And we want to do,
Obviously, these are all the setups. Once you get used to any tool, this one included, you zip through this stuff a lot faster, right?
okay, so there we're, and it's not, sometimes this moves when you put this on.
You gotta wait, I think you have to wait maybe for it to be triggering before it lets you do that.
Let's hit trigger, by the way, which it's kind of
Slowing up on us.
slowing up on us there for whatever reason.
By the way, every once in a while you'll see me do something like this. It's because we have the doors open so we don't asphyxiate, and it's a hot July evening, and the bugs have decided that the lighting in here is very attractive. And so I'm not just trying to wave at you or whatever.
Oh, I think you got something up your sleeve.
But it's because there's something usually nipping at me when I do that.
Okay, there's our amp clamp. Let's try cranking it around.
Oh, obviously.
Okay, that's
Gotta
the time.
change.
And we're gonna play with time.
I think it was upside down, right? It went down?
Oh, you know, I didn't even notice.
It did, yeah. So I'm going to turn this clamp around.
And Bear, let's try it again.
We have to wait for you down, Graham, put it back.
Now try it again.
Yeah, that's all right, Goose.
Dad probably just had a little fuel in the rail. There you go.
Just let it will die out.
Of course, we took the fuel pump fuse out, but this had quite a bit of pressure in it. There you go. Now it's probably really dead.
Let's crank it again.
This car does not want to die. It's running on air. Maybe it's one of those new air engines. Even while it's sputtering and dying and running like garbage, you can see the inrush current, and then you can see it gradually going down like Jerry showed you before. There you go. That's it. And look,
Yeah.
stabilizes.
When you see it's so tight like that and you want more, what we need to do is play with the time. So that time setting on this car, I got 10 seconds, I'll make it, ooh,
5 seconds.
not milliseconds,
Yeah, whatever.
5 seconds.
Right. There you go.
Now notice the difference between 5 milliseconds with all fuzziness, because it picks up everything, and 5 seconds. Go ahead, try it.
There you go. Look at that.
Good. Now, unfortunately, there's still fuel, I think, because it's so damn hot. Vapors.
There's vapors in there, and it's still trying to fire. It's giving a valiant effort. Yeah. It is amazing. It's still trying to fire.
And let me put that range up too. Let me go range to 1,000
Just so we can see the top.
so you can see the peak.
It would look like it was about 500 or 600.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. So the little humps, you're probably best when you're doing this, do a 2 second, because 1 second didn't give us enough. Do 1,000 volts one more time. You'll see the peak come up. We're looking for the hump right in here to be used.
Yeah, there you go. And they're pretty even. And now it actually looks like it's not trying to start.
Well, We'll do it one more time with time, and I'll go to 5.
And now you're gonna freeze that, right?
You know, I don't see a freeze button on the scope. One of the things I actually asked for. Here's one thing you can do. You can do it like this. Yeah, here's the freeze on the bottom. Okay. When you see this inrush of current, because it wants to keep starting, you put the fuse back in. We have this right here going up to about 600 and maybe 700 amps coming down. These humps here, even though that resolution is not as good as what we've seen here. Yeah, I'll go over here and do this. Yeah, you can start taking some of it off. Here, when you look at this particular screen, notice the humps are better. I have it on 1,000 volts or 1,000 amps, excuse me. Here's my inrush. It's about 700 amps. You come down and you notice you can see the resolution a little better here. This was on a 6-cylinder motor. This is on a 4-cylinder motor. This motor wasn't trying to start. And by the way, this car doesn't have clear flood. We did take the fuel pump fuse out, but when you have something as hot as this, there actually can be an issue. Now, we covered a lot. We want to ask you if there's any other questions. Pierre, if you can go take a peek at the questions there.
I have a question.
Oh, and Bear has a question. So I'm going to answer Bear's question first. He's been here.
Can you access anything else on the web, like if you have a subscription to All Data or something, or only what they give?
Yes, All Data, Mitchell, IATN, Identifix, TST, and I believe they're going to be adding a few more. And Google, there's one good thing in there. You hit something with a code. If this car had a code that was a common engine code, you hit it and it takes you to Google, which is nice because that could be quite helpful.
Okay, one question. Paul says, does this auto record?
You know, I think it does do some recording in the background when you're running it. Not 100% sure. I think when I went down here on this part of the screen, I think it's like always moving along until you click it. And that's on data as well as looks like on the scope.
And there's a comment, I wish they had a slide bar at the bottom like a Verus to replay. Is that really kind of what that is?
Yeah, watch. This is replay.
That's what that is, right?
Yes. Right here, this will move. If I hit play, this will go back and forth. We just didn't record anything.
So you have to record that and then you can do the replay.
Because all I did was hit freeze. And there was nothing in it.
Question was, does the scope feature come with the tool or is it a separate purchase?
Scope feature is on the tool. The module itself, that little box, if you could hold that up, the one we had hanging up. If you can just show them there. That is separate. I'm not sure how much it goes for. Same with the amp clamps. They have the 2 different current probes and the TPMS. The TPMS, by the way, is the same one that you get for the Evo or the Genisys or even standalone. This took the place of their older unit that I used to have that worked. It was like a little box thing with an antenna. So that's some of the info there.
Another question, what about reprogram flash with the touch?
Reprogram.
Do they have a J2534 module, in other words?
Oh, that box, if you unplug it, that is a J2534 box that is compatible with reprogram. So when he pulls this out, and this could be hardwired, see this is a full J2534 box. We should say that SPX or OTC or Bosch nowadays, whatever they call themselves, the Genisys Touch here by OTC, if you remember the older version that was on the Pegasus, that is actually the Honda factory tool. So this will reprogram many different vehicles as well because it's J2534 compatible. So that's that. I don't believe that I am wrong on that, but there's a possibility. I haven't programmed anything with it, so let me say that just in case I am wrong. Any other questions, Pierre, before we move on?
Nope, no, that's pretty good.
Okay, so get over here, and Bear, you can pop in here as well. Let's move this out of the way. And we'll focus right on this screen right here. So Bear, you can stand right there. You know, we want to thank you for coming out. Hopefully you found this information somewhat helpful. TST, we're a non-for-profit group. That's Technician Service Training. We hold roundtables once a month. That's what's ever on your mind. You can basically tell us what you think. We have scan tool shootouts that we'll be doing. Hopefully some short video clips going up on our website as well. And we always have live seminars that start back up in September, go all the way through, live events, big events in March, and also one out in California, which will probably be in end of September or October this year. So if you like what you see, if you like to support us, we do take donations. We are a true 501c3 non-for-profit. Pierre and myself have been doing this for years from the old STS Service Technician Society days. We recruit people like Bear. We pay them absolutely zero like we pay ourselves. It's something that we want to help people in the industry, and we appreciate your support by coming on and watching us. Don't forget to go to our YouTube channel. Go www.youtube.com. Type in TSTSEMINARS space. If you put in P0171, or you put in drivability meets transability, you'll see our buddy Wayne Colonna. Don't forget our friends at Motor Age. Next month we have a few webcasts, and one, Pete Meyer will be up here. I forgot what we're doing. I always forget what we're doing. But whatever we're doing, Pete will let me know. And he'll be up here, I think, the third week of August. So look for us for that, our round table in August, another webcast. We got to do a scan tool shootout.
You can always go on the website, sign up as a member if you're not already a member, and you can get you have to email us and get a password. But then you can go into the member side of the site. There's tools there. There's all the old newsletters. There's a lot of stuff on that side of the site that you can't get from the public side. And of course, it helps support us too.
Yes, and we have members all over the world. From Australia, we had a guy in the Philippines just signed up yesterday. Europe, all over the place. And without you guys, we couldn't do it. And our sponsors, by the way, including our friends at SPX and many other companies that we deal with. And here's how I make some money if you're ever interested in some training and you'd like to hire me. I got to try to give myself a plug. If you want guns to hire here, they'll also help you, whatever. But from New York, we'd like to say thank you and have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.